Right fellas, welcome back to a brand new video. So recently I bought an Escort Cosworth, bit of a project, and on my last video I fully stripped the underside. Someone has schultzed underneath and we're going to tidy it up. I haven't got long to do it. I've got the winter, I want it back on the road for March, and I get limited time in the garage. I've got a family, I've got a full-time job. I don't get much time in the garage to do it, so I'm going to get as much done as I can, then build it back up for the summer. In this video we're going to strip down the rear beam of the car. So this is the rear beam of the car, fellas. I don't think it has ever been off because it's still got stickers which Ford would have put on when it was made. There's one there on the diff just down here. The sticker, it's under all this dust. It has had some modifications at some point. Someone's fitted some braided fuel lines. They've got some copper lines there as well, because these are originally steel and they go rusty, so it's quite a common thing to replace them with copper. Someone's also fitted some big gas gold coilovers, quite a nice upgrade. I might change them to some conies, like some spring and shock type things. So let's strip this down and get ready for sandblasting and powder coating. Now the Escort Cosworth is 4-wheel drive, so let's start by disconnecting the prop shaft that goes into the rear diff on the back axle. It's held in place with 4 17mm bolts. So that's the prop shaft off and out the way. Let's now remove the rear coilovers. And like I've just mentioned, fellas, these coilovers might not go back on, and the reason I might replace them is I think the spring rates are a bit too hard in these coilovers. It's a bit too much of a bumpy ride for my old bones in this car. We'll put the bolts back in for safekeeping. Next we'll do the rear brake calipers. First job is to remove this old handbrake cable. Then next we'll remove the rear copper brake lines. Now I'm assuming the original metal ones have gone rusty, so someone has quite rightly replaced them with these copper ones. Once we've disconnected the braided fuel line from the copper line, we'll then remove these aftermarket braided fuel lines. I will keep these and put them back on. They're still in pretty good condition. Then next we'll undo these 2 17mm bolts that hold the rear caliper to the rear hub on the car. It looks like someone has actually painted these red at some point in the car's life, and when I rebuild the car I think I will change the colour of these back to original, which is like a zinc plated gold colour. Would anyone be interested to see a breakdown cost to do the underside restoration on this Escort Cosworth? Let us know in the comments if you're interested. So if you're thinking, Adam, how much is this job going to cost? It is going to cost a lot of money, but there is some ways we can make some big savings. So take for instance these rear brake calipers. Now I can buy a new rear brake caliper for £270 each or £540 for a pair. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the ones we've took off, but it makes no sense to put them back on when they're looking all dirty and crusty. But if I go on the website e-manual and get access to the Ford dealership workshop manual for a Cosworth, and that gives us a detailed guide on how to strip and rebuild a Ford Cosworth rear brake caliper. So with that detailed step-by-step manual, I've been online and ordered a full set of rear brake caliper seals and pistons for less than £100. It was £540, remember, for a set of brand new calipers, so that is a massive saving. Head over to e-manual's website and do a search for your car. I done a search for my dream car, a Vauxhall Cavalier Turbo, and they even had a manual for that. So click the link in the description of this video and use code ADAM22 to save a whopping 22% off the manual for your car. Right, now next fellas, we need to try and get these ABS sensors off. You see this one's starting to fall to bits, unfortunately, so I think we might have to try and replace these. See, there's meant to be a brake dust cover on there as well. That's a remainder of the brake dust cover actually. There should be like a big plate that goes around here to cover the dust, stop the dust. But obviously it's just rotted away, so we'll get a new one of them. So let's see if we can get this ABS sensor out the hub. Oh no, it's just spun the nut. I think we might have to weld something on the top of that knotted bolt, then twist it out. Well, that didn't work, fellas, the nut snapped off. Right, let's see if we can get the remainder of this ABS sensor out. Then I'll have to get that bit there of the bolt, I'll have to drill it out. It looks like this sensor's made out of aluminium, and that's why it's just falling to bits like this. Look, it's just all coming apart. The sensor's still stuck in there, look. Yeah, it's out. Well, kinda. Right, so we'll get the rest of this hub off, then we'll come back to this damaged ABS hole sensor. Oh, there's a bit off there, look. Come on. Oh, you daft little sodger. There we go. There is the remainder of the ABS sensor out the hole. So now we've just got that little bit of stud, but I'll get that out later on. I'll drill it flat and I'll grind it flat and drill it out. Next job, fellas, let's remove this hub. One side is left-handed, one side is right-handed. I think this is the left-hand side and it's torqued very tight. So we're going to use my 8-back driver to see if we can rattle it off. That's going the right way, I hope. And that comes off there. Then next we'll get a hub puller on here. Then with the hub off, we can then remove the hub carrier. This is held in place with 4 13mm bolts. Now, like I say, fellas, this is maybe never been off in the car's life. The car has done 50,000 miles, and the only reason you would take this off is to do a wheel bearing, and a wheel bearing should really last more than 50,000 miles. So there's a good chance this is all original and has never ever been off the car. And that there, fellas, is the remainder of the brake dust shield. So we'll order a new set of them from Sierra's R Us. And obviously we'll get a new set of bearings for inside the hub. We'll get this all blasted and painted and looking nice. Next we'll move on to the anti-roll bar and we'll remove it from the drop link. And as you can see, I did have a bit of trouble removing it with the tools I had. I tried to use 2 screwdrivers to pry it off and it just didn't work. So I broke out the torch, melted the rubber. Then it popped off with absolutely no problems. Then we'll remove the drop link from the bottom arms. The job of the drop link is to connect the anti-roll bar and the bottom arm together. Right, fellas, now this is all going pretty well. I haven't discovered any nasty horrors yet. The next job, let's remove the rear drive shafts. Now if you ever do this job, fellas, these bolts might look like they're like an Allen key, but they're actually not. It's a T45 Torx key. Then once all the bolts are out, we can give it a tap with a hammer and remove the hub from the end of the drive shaft. Then we'll go at the end where it attaches to the diff and we'll do exactly the same process again, fellas. So there is the drive shaft off, and you can see it's all full of schultz and rust and grease and everything else that the car's accumulated over the years. So we'll take this somewhere and get it refurbished. Maybe I'll have a go myself, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Now we're starting to get the bits where we might start to get issues. We've got 2 big nuts and bolts on each bottom arm, and each of the nuts and bolts are rusty. So what was a 19 or 17 milli socket has probably dropped down at least a millimetre by the time the rust flakes come off. So hopefully we can get these out without too much issue. I am going to put a little bit of heat on, see if that helps. Then we're going straight in with the Ugga Dugga gun. I'm not going to mess about with sockets because I don't think they'll come off, and I think these could be original. So there's a good chance they're well stuck, rusted and seized in place. So let's see, a little bit of heat, then plenty of torque from the Ugga Dugga gun. The main focus at the minute, fellas, is to get this nut off. If I can get the nut off, I can always hammer the bolt through and knock it out. So the main thing, we need to get this nut even off the bolt. Oh no, I stripped this bolt on the end. I have to see if I can get a 6-sided socket on there instead of one of these 9 teeth or 12 teeth, whatever it is. Right, so we've got a 6-sided socket there. That's what I should have used at the beginning to start with. Let's see if it'll come off. God, that's stuck fast. Let's get a bit more heat on it. Yes! So here's another bolt what we need to get off, fellas, and you can see what I mean about the hex size changing. So if I just see all the metal coming off, obviously that's just shrinking the size of the bolt. We need to get this off. This is the last bolt we need to get off for the bottom arm, and we can pull the bottom arm away from the beam. So that's a 15 milli socket what we've hammered on. I'm not sure what size it's meant to be, whether it's meant to be a 16, 17 or even a 15, but we've put 15 milli socket on there. This side needs to be a 19, so I've got 19 socket there. We'll hammer that on. Missed. Right, so we've got a 15 milli socket on this side, we've got 19 milli on that side. We'll get some heat on it all. We're even going to heat up the socket. It's on. I don't want to try and take it on and off. Tell you what, we might try getting it off actually. We want to get this nice and hot. There even be a nylon nut, so it'll have a bit of plastic in. So once the tighter don't come undone, that should do. Right, let's get our gun on that side, and we'll get our socket thing on this side. Come on. There you go. Some more heat on that, stopped. Yes! Hopefully that bolt will pull out. There we go. Right, now hopefully this bottom arm should just pull off the rear beam. Like that. Yes! So you can see why I think it's important to do this, fellas. If you look, it's all just rust under here. To be honest, if I bought a car, any car, and I wanted to keep it, I would always advise doing stuff like this. I know it's a bit of a rubbish job, but if you love the car, it's just something you've got to do, I think. If you've got a car, fellas, and you love it and you want to do something like this and you're too scared or you haven't got the money, whatever, and you're thinking, I want to preserve my car, what can I do if I can't do what I'm doing here? My advice would be, get some kind of wax oil or Lano Guard, or even if you can't afford some of that, go to B&Q, go to Halfords, get some spray grease, some kind of spray grease, and just spray the full underside of your car wherever there's rust. Grease will stop things rusting. It gives a nice watertight barrier. That would be my advice. Put something over the steel, stop it rusting, stop it getting worse, stop your car falling to bits, fellas. For the next part, what we need to do is we need to remove the diff from the beam. Now these have got some big long 6-7 inch bolts, and I'm gonna assume these are going to be a nightmare to get out. So let's start by getting some heat on the bolts. And like I said earlier, fellas, this nut that's been holding this on is a nylock nut, so it's got a bit of plastic in the end there that stops it undoing, so the heat will help melt the plastic. Right, let's give this a go. So we've got a bolt on this end, we'll put this end on the bolt. Then we'll put the gun on the nut. Stop turning so we'll get some more heat on there. You can see the plastic at the bottom there bubbling. That's a nut off, but the bolt is still in the diff. And that is absolutely stuck solid in there. So with the pry bar, that bolt is still not turning. God. So let's try the gun on the bolt. Now this is steel, a steel bolt in aluminium, which probably doesn't mix, to be honest. It probably reacts with each other. Not good. I don't think there's any threads in here. I think it's just like a bolt with it's a bit of bar with a little bit of thread on the end where the nut goes. So really, in theory, this should just knock out with a hammer. So what we'll try is, we'll get the hammer in this end, and we'll ugga-dugga this bolt while we'll hammer this. Stuck that. Let's try putting a nut on the end and giving it a good old smack with this lump hammer. Right, fellas, this bolt is absolutely not budging, and you might not know this, but I actually only bought this gun to do the underside of my 3-door, to remove this exact bolt on the 3-door. Right, let's make a phone call. Hello mate, how's it going?
Hi.
Right, I'm trying to get these long bolts. Do you have the back diff of a Cosy?
Yeah.
It's got the long bolts that go through the diff into the beam. Are you with us? There's two. Pardon?
Through the diff?
There's the long bolts go on the beam.
Oh, sorry, I know what you mean. That hold the diff into the rear beam.
Yes, they're about 7 inches long.
Yeah. It's more than 7 inches. You'd be lying to your missus if that long. You think 7 inches is that long? I know what you mean. You can't get it to turn, can you?
Nah, I've got the nut off the end.
Yeah.
But I can't get the bolt to turn. Any ideas?
Yeah, you have to whack it with an hammer.
What? Whack one end of the thread?
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. But even if you put the nut back on it, you'll still the thread.
Well, I'll get a new bolt. I'm not so bothered about that as long as it comes out.
You've got a windy gun, haven't you? What you need to do is put the windy gun on and tap the thread end with a hammer, and all of a sudden you'll start to manage to work it loose. And then once you've brayed it so that it's flush and it won't bray anymore, then just spray WD on the bit that's sticking out and bray it back in, and then just spray it backwards and forwards, keep spraying it with WD, and then you'll be able to chase it out with like a screwdriver.
Cheers mate, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, you just keep working it backwards and forwards with WD, and then all of a sudden you'll come loose.
Right, cheers mate.
Thanks buddy, see you mate.
Ciao mate.
Ta-da.
Right, let's give it a go. I've got a big hammer here. Paul has done this numerous times, so I'm definitely not to take his advice. So let's give it a good whack while we're ugga at the end. Right fellas, there's a bolt out. That must be 7 inches long, mustn't it? One down, one more to go. We've got another one of these to get out on the bottom of the cradle. So let's flip it upside down. Then you can see the next one here goes from there all the way through. Now I'm guessing this one's probably got more rust because it's on the bottom of the diff, so it's going to get a bit more weathered. Let's get some tools on, see if we can get it off. First thing we're going to start with is a bit of heat on the nut to melt the plastic on the nut and melt the shunts what someone's put on. So that's a nut off. Now we just need to get the bolt out the diff. So I got a bit sick of hammering the bolt backwards and forwards, so I thought I'd chop the end off, then I can knock it back through the hole and pull it out the gap in the diff. And you know what fellas, it worked perfectly. Right, we've got 2 final bolts to get out the diff. We've got one this side, one the other side. So let's, I was going to say ugga dugger it, but my ugga dugger's not going to get in. We'll have to hammer that on, it's full of shunts. Yes! Yes, that's coming out that. We'll get a ratchet on that. Now obviously we'll replace all these nuts and bolts fellas. I'm not going to get these zinc plated and put back in. They're all going to get replaced with nice new ones without any rust. Right, last bolt to this side fellas to get the diff out. Yes! Right, now the diff should just lift up and out the way. There's the diff out fellas, absolutely buzzing. That was a lot more of a challenge than I thought, but we've got it out. I'm not sure what to do with the housing. See, I don't know how far to go with the car, because I mean, who looks under a car and how far do you go and where do you stop? I would rather drive the car than have a nice shiny underneath. I would rather be out in it. Got one more job to do on the rear beam, and that's to remove these bushes. Now people say you need to press them out, and if I had a press in the garage, that's what I would do. I've also heard people say you can melt them out with heat, but I don't want to start melting big chunks of rubber like this in my garage. So I think with a fresh Stanley knife blade I can cut these out by slicing the sides. It's actually a bit tougher than I thought, but let's have a look. If I can slice some bits off these mounts, I think they'll just fall out, to be honest. Get under there, like that. And hopefully that bit will pull off. like that. Now let's see if I can hit this with a hammer and knock it out. I think that might come out. Haha, yes! When people push them out, they're pushing this lip. So I've just cut the lip off and it's literally just fell out. Haha, yes! Anyway fellas, if you've got any hints, tips or advice for rebuilding this rear beam, and if you know anyone that's good at sandblasting and powder coating satin black, drop some in the comments. But until next time, I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!